All right, that's what happens when I go to hit record and I look over at my little monitor screen and it looks terrible. So, what is up, everybody? This is the third video lesson in the series of how to study the Bible. And I promised last week that I'd be going through this week and talking about some of the tools that I use when studying the Bible. So we're just going to jump straight into it. I'm going to try to keep this short and simple. I could talk for a while about things, and I'm just going to try to keep it short, sweet, and simple. So, I use a couple of basic tools that I think are pretty accessible for everybody. There are times that I like to completely nerd out and try to go back and sort of reference the biblical Greek. I don't know any Hebrew or anything like that. Like, I can pick my way through Greek, sort of. I don't speak Greek, as I stated last week. I have enough knowledge of languages that I can make do with some of that, since I speak German and to some extent Spanish. But Greek is its own unique beast, so word studies are really the extent of what I can do with that. So pretty much the tools that I use are tools that just about anybody can go through and use for themselves. And so that's what I wanted to just lay down in this video, is going through some tools that we have available to us today that will assist us in actually studying the Bible and going into that deeper level, that deeper level of study instead of just that surface level reading. And the great thing about the position that we're in today, as far as 21st century America, is we have more tools at our disposal now than we've ever had at any point in history. I firmly believe that today's Christians should be the most well-educated Christians that have ever walked this planet. And to my despair, that's usually not the case. You end up... go to just about any comment section on YouTube or Facebook and watch Christians argue with one another, and it leaves you sitting there going, what are you even talking about? Yeah, we could be much better educated than what we actually are, but hey, that's why we're doing this video series, to be able to equip ourselves and be a little bit better off than our predecessors were. So the first major tool that I want to talk about that has been so helpful, and it's the one that I use the most out of everything else that I use in the Bible, is cross-references. A cross-reference is basically just when one point of the text talks about another point of the text. So, I have here in front of me the book of James on my screen, and let's ignore that panel for now. I have the book of James, and the great thing about it, this is just the ESV loaded into a Bible program on my computer. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm just showing it to you on the screen, but my personal Bible, the one that I read out of every day, it has the exact same cross-references. It's the ESV cross-references. I think there's 80,000 of them or something like that. Let's say we're reading James 1:2. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. Okay, so that's what James 1, 2, and 3. James chapter 1, verses 2 and 3. So there's a little G right here. And if I click it, it goes to 1 Peter 1:7, which if I click that, or it's also down at the bottom of my screen, but I'll put it up here. So that the tested genuineness of your faith, more precious than gold that perishes though it is tested by fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. So James is talking about the testing of your faith that produces steadfastness. Peter is talking about a testing of your faith that produces a sort of genuineness. And what the cross-reference allows you to do is realize that, okay, there's a theme that runs throughout multiple books of the Bible from multiple authors talking about our faith being tested. And so you could go and cross-reference those different references. Let's see, what's this key reference to? It just goes back to James 1:3. You could check these cross-references and see how different ideas, so the tested genuineness of your faith producing steadfastness, this is a theme that we see in multiple places in the Bible. You can do that all over the Bible. That's why, like I said, there's about 80,000 of them in the ESV. This is the tool that me and Nicole use the most. I mean, hands down, when we're sitting down and studying the Bible together, we will be reading through, and and I was gonna hold it up, but it's not even gonna work. What I will try to show you is right there. Oh, that way. That tiny little text down in the corner there. Those are all the cross references that are on this particular page, and it's just got the little letters. So you look at the little letter in the verse, you go down, you check your cross reference, and then you flip over to see where it says what, and there's your cross reference. Oh no, I'm folding pages over. I hate it when I do that. So cross references are super, super, super useful, especially when you're reading something in the Bible and you run into a part of the text that you might have trouble understanding. It's really helpful to be able to check the cross references and see where that phrase or where that kind of idea is used in other places in the Bible, and it helps you develop a fuller understanding of what's being said. So when James is talking about the testing of your faith, you can reference it to Peter, and I'm sure there's other references you could check, talking about the testing of your faith producing steadfastness, and you'll understand what it means as a Christian to have your faith tested. It helps you understand the verse better. So cross-references are super, super useful. Another thing that I will sometimes do, and I don't know if I could really do it much on here, is you can actually compare translations, which I don't have any other English Bibles loaded into this program, I don't think. I only have the ESV, I'm pretty sure. There's Italian, German, if you want to compare languages. I don't think that's going to be super helpful for us right now. The Word English Bible. I don't know what that is. So, I mean, I could compare the KJV to the ESV. Oh, that's the Apocrypha. Oh. All right, so I'm not able to demo it unless I want to reach over there and grab a Bible. But something that I will sometimes do is I'll read from the ESV, and then it usually ends up happening when Nicole is reading from the New American Standard Bible, and we'll compare the way that particular words are translated, and it helps develop a fuller understanding of what the text is saying once again. And it's usually just the instance of the same thing is said using different words, and when you read multiple translations of the same thing being said with different words, it just gives you a fuller understanding of what the original meaning of like the Greek or the Hebrew could have been. So comparing translations is a great way that you can do that. Another tool that I use pretty consistently, and one that I really like, is commentaries. A commentary is when a person sits down and writes out their thoughts and their studies of a particular book of the Bible. Google is great for this because you can access things like this right here, what I have up on my screen. I just went into Google and typed in James 1 commentary. And this came up. This particular commentary is from Matthew Henry. He was a preacher that lived in the 1800s and wrote a commentary on the entire Bible. And as you can see, it's really tiny font and extends all the way down. Yeah, that's James 1. Let's check out James 2. Oh, look at that. Look at all of that information. So a great way to study the Bible is by reading commentaries. Matthew Henry's really solid. You could read commentaries from people like Spurgeon, I think is available for free online here. Yeah, so here's verses 1 through 26 of James 1. Spurgeon's comments on it. Spurgeon was a preacher that lived during the Great Awakening, I believe it was. I'm pretty sure you could find Wesley's commentaries, John Calvin's commentaries, Martin Luther's commentaries. You can find so many different resources online for free of people that have studied the text extensively, and you're able to study that way. So great tool right there is just going into Google and typing in the name of the book and commentary. I usually try to make sure that I kind of know where the person is coming from that I'm reading the commentary of. So Matthew Henry was a solid guy. Spurgeon, solid guy. If I were reading an internet blog put up by some no-name guy that only likes to argue with people on the internet, I would be less likely to read that and say, okay, I can learn a lot from this. But I mean, what do we have? John MacArthur, Wesley, Calvin, Spurgeon, James and the Beatitudes. That'd be a cool study to do. Desiring God, that's a ministry of John Piper. Piper's really solid. So you kind of have to know who the person is. You can go and do your research on who that person is. So commentaries, when they're written by a solid person, are really, really, really helpful. The thing that I will say is you're probably not going to find somebody that you agree with 100% on every theological point. For example, somebody that I have learned a tremendous amount from here as of late is R.C. Sproul. And I actually only discovered him because he recently passed away and I saw his name going around. And so I started listening to his materials and things. And the guy is absolutely brilliant, hilarious, really, really nice guy. It's a shame that I didn't discover his ministry sooner. But I mean, Sproul was a Presbyterian, so he believed in baptizing babies. I don't agree that that's a valid thing of baptism. Okay, great. Am I going to sit there and say, well, I can never read or listen to anything written by R.C. Sproul ever again? No. I mean, I understand that we're going to have theological distinctions where I disagree with the person and say, okay, that's fine. Let's move on from there. Would I read a commentary put out by some prosperity gospel person? No, because they're not a Christian. Like, there's the differences. I want to make sure that the person that I'm listening to is a solid Orthodox Christian, that they're not out there in theological la-la land somewhere, that I can actually benefit from the things that they're saying and writing. So that brings me to probably my favorite tool to use right now. Yeah, it's really just my favorite right now. I'll open it up on the screen here so you can see. Oh no, where is it? I always forget where it's hidden in here. Uh-huh. Well, this is okay. I have it right there. That's not what I was looking for though. Why is it being weird? Oh, good. Okay, let's try to swap. Okay, whatever, that's fine. Okay, that's actually gonna really bother me. It's not letting me do what I want it to though. Oh no. Okay, good. I got it. I fixed it, guys. I fixed it. It has to be just perfect or I can't study. Like, I have to have it laid out a certain way. So on my screen here, I have the ESV Study Bible. The ESV Study Bible was released, I think, something like 2 years ago, and has quickly become one of the best-selling study Bibles out on the market today. And the reason for that is really simple. It's a really straightforward, down-to-earth commentary on the Bible. Oh, I know what I need to do. I need to do that. I need to X that out. The ESV Study Bible is a really down-to-earth, straightforward commentary on the text. The difference between a study Bible and a commentary is that a commentary is written by one person, whereas a study Bible is usually a collaborative effort of multiple individuals. And if you're feeling very, very scholarly, I guess, you can go and research every single individual that put together a study Bible. The ESV Study Bible is really solid. The reason that I enjoy having a tool like that, and the reason that I reference it so often, is because the ESV Study Bible is just very plain. Here's what the text says, and then it lets it go. It's not sitting there trying to tell me how to apply the text to my life. It's not telling me, oh, here's maybe what you should think and dwell on about the text or something like that. It's just like, oh, hey, this means this, and then it moves on to the next point. That's great for studying because it leaves you to do your own research and to make your own applications, which is part of studying God's Word, is understanding, okay, now that I understand what this verse says, what does it mean to my life? So you don't have somebody sitting there saying, here's what this should mean to you. Instead, you get to say, what does the verse mean and how does that apply? The other reason that I really, really like the ESV Study Bible is because it goes really in depth right off the bat. It dives straight into the overview or the introduction of a book before you get into the actual notes. So on here you see introduction to the letter of James. And we talked last week about you have to understand the author, the audience, the historical context, and those kind of things. And a good study Bible is going to lay that out for you just like this. So James talks about the author and the title. We believe it's written by James. Some people want to doubt that, but we have no real reason to doubt it, and you can read the notes there. the dating of the book, so how old it is, and they're like, okay, it must have been written in the early to mid 40s. Here are the reasons that we say this. The theme, what is the theme of the text? What's the overall, the main idea of the book? And you have purpose, occasion. Ooh, I just went too far. I went really far. How did that happen? Purpose, occasion, and background. Some key themes laid out in a nice table that you can check these references and go over and visit them. Different literary features, the way that the book's laid out. We have a timeline here that we could check out that's part of the ESV study notes. That looks like it revolves specifically around James and understanding his relationship to other areas of the church, such as the Council of Jerusalem in right around the year 50 AD. Paul visit James. Oh, when did that happen? 57, really? Approximate date. So yeah, either way, I mean, you have all sorts of information laid out. You have an outline of the book, and then it jumps into the notes. And you can see that these are pretty detailed notes. It's not quite like what you get in an actual commentary, but notes like this are super helpful for studying the text, I find. You don't have to bog yourself down too much. If you want to go super deep, pick up a commentary. For just getting a slightly better understanding of what a portion of the text is saying, going into notes like this is, I mean, beyond helpful. So yeah, ESV Study Bible is definitely one of my favorite tools to use alongside of other commentaries and things like that. But for me, if I just want to look up something real quick, the ESV Study Bible is the way that I go with that. And and the other thing that I forgot to say about that too, the ESV Study Bible is put together by conservative believing scholars. That's the other part that I really like about it. I have, for example, this is an NIV study Bible that I got several years ago. I haven't really used it extensively. I mean, it's got like maps and all sorts of notes and things like that. It's pretty helpful too. I think there were some areas where when you read in the introductions to books, they sometimes try to argue for a later dating of books and almost a more liberal perspective on things at times. Oh, well, if AD 60 for the book of Ephesians, that sounds about right. So there, NIV Study Bible, I guess, wouldn't be a terrible choice either. I definitely prefer the ESV, but that's also a translational thing beyond that. So there are a multitude of tools that we have available like that. I mean, a good study Bible will go a long way. I mean, really, and I told the youth group this, the reason that I am who I am today, like my love of studying the Word, is because of actually a study Bible that got handed out when I was in youth group, and that was the Life Application Study Bible. I wouldn't recommend this one as much today for real in-depth study, because it doesn't always... It sometimes does and it sometimes doesn't. It doesn't always just explain the meaning of the text. Sometimes it dives more into like, oh, well, in your day-to-day life, don't be afraid to think about this. And like I said, I prefer to just have the meaning of the text laid out in front of me. But the Life Application Study Bible, I mean, can be really helpful in applying the text if you find that that's an area that that is a heavy book. It can be a really helpful tool if you find that you have trouble understanding how the text should apply to your life. That's why it's called the Life Application Study Bible. I don't think they make it for the ESV, unfortunately. Like I've said before, I really like the ESV and the NASB as my two primary translations. This is the 1984 New International Version, before it got all gender neutral and weird. So it's not terrible. Not my favorite translation, but the 1984 NIV wasn't terrible. Definitely not bad. So that's study Bibles. Like I said, for general day-to-day study, I really, really encourage use of study Bibles. They're super helpful. Another great resource that I highly recommend is the website gotquestions.org. So we'll just pop this open, gotquestions.org. They now have 544,853 Bible questions answered. So over 500,000 questions answered. You can look at like their top 20 questions. I wonder if that's changed recently. So go away. So the top 20 questions that they have come in through their website. This, I don't know, let's type in Revelation. This isn't super helpful as far as like studying the text in that line by line sort of fashion. But what gotquestions.org does really well is like, okay, we're talking about Revelation in church. And I just typed in Revelation in their search thing. Questions about Revelation. What is the futurist interpretation of the book of Revelation? So if you're having trouble understanding what's happening in church right now because you missed the lesson where we define what the futurist view is, you can now view the webpage that'll give you an outline of what the futurist outlook on Revelation is versus the idealist interpretation or other things like that. So gotquestions.org for me personally was probably one of my most used resources when I was going through college. Anytime I had questions that I didn't know how to answer, that's the website that I went to. So they're really solid. Yeah, I highly recommend that website. Another great one, if you don't want to pay for like an ESV study Bible or something like that, is Grace to You. That's gty.org. That's the ministry of Dr. John MacArthur. I don't agree with everything that John MacArthur says. There are certain points that he goes off on that I'm kind of like, okay, I can't get on board with that. But by and large, he says a lot of stuff that's really dead on. And what he has on their website, or what Grace to You, that whole ministry, has available on their website, is... Oh, where did I... Oops. I clicked by accident. So up in the top bar, they have a resources tab. And I'll click that. And you have articles written by Dr. MacArthur, book introductions, study guides, Bible Q&A. My favorite thing that he has is book introductions. So when you're going to study, like you know, we're studying the book of Revelation, which I know that this is an area where I would disagree with Dr. MacArthur. He has an entire outline or an entire introduction to the study of the book of Revelation. So if you don't have access to a study Bible because they cost money, gracetoyou.com or .org, sorry, gty.org is a free resource that'll give you the like that overall outline to the beginning of a book. I use this a lot I used it a lot before I got the ESV Study Bible. So yeah, great resource right there. Another one. Okay, this would be the final one, and this one's sort of a more technical one. If you don't like computers, don't get this resource. The reason I'm saying that is because it can be a little bit tricky to figure out how to use. I'm still figuring out all of the tools available in this program. Like, I've only scratched the surface. And that's the one that you see up on my screen all the time. It's a program, it was originally made for Mac. Now it's available for both Mac and Windows, and it's called Accordance. So Accordance, let me see if I can find the logo. There you go. That little logo right there is Accordance. If you go on the internet and type in Accordance Bible? Accordance Bible software, sure. It's accordancebible.com, and you can download the actual software. There's a free version of it. That's what I'm using. I haven't even bought the starter package. The starter package is like $150, I think, and that contains some commentaries, some Bible dictionaries, and some other resources that are helpful for just about anybody. Accordance is super powerful because you can add these modules onto it. So I have the ESV Study Bible over here. That's because I went to Accordance's website, I bought the ESV Study Bible, and you load it into your Accordance software, and then you have those notes available alongside of your translation. You can buy commentaries, different dictionaries, different resources, different study guides, all sorts of things. Like another one that I have is the Tyndale House Greek New Testament. So I'm pretty sure I've had this one up on the screen before. So if I want to practice reading Greek, there you go. You can have the Greek available to you. The tools, and then The other thing, like if you decide to get into studying the languages, that's where you get your lexicons and things like that. Your ability to look up and define words. When you're actually reading the text, you could look up something and go to your dictionaries, commentaries, parallels, different things like that. All sorts of tools that I'm still not super familiar with. So if you decide you want to get technical with it, Accordance is a great way to go. Like I said, grab the free version and play around with that. Another great one is Logos. That one I've never really figured out. The UI was too complicated for me. It felt clunky and weird, and I never liked it much. So Accordance is much cleaner, much simpler to use, in my opinion, and so it's the one that I prefer using. But so basically, the only reason that I mention something like this is because if you decide to really start studying and really start digging into certain things, what will eventually happen is you'll end up with an entire wall full of books and commentaries. Like one whole commentary set is going to take up a huge amount of space on a shelf. Or you could just access it online or load it into Accordance if it's not a free commentary or something like that. Instead of having to take up a whole wall full of books that you can't search through nearly as fast as you can by doing a search in a program like Accordance. To me, it makes more sense to have your library in a digital format. It makes it faster to look through, faster to research. And so that's what I recommend. I don't really use, I use my actual, this Bible here for, our daily reading, and it has cross references. So for basic levels of study, it's really helpful in that regard. But that's also just because I'm a nerd and I like having, it's not even a nerd thing. It's just, I like having a physical Bible. I don't know. I always have. So, that is what it is. So to recap, we have cross references are super helpful. Study Bibles, like a good study Bible, like the ESV Study Bible, is really helpful. Comparing translations can be helpful if you just want to get a better understanding of what a particular verse is saying. GotQuestions.org, ministries like Grace to You, Ligonier Ministries. I'm trying to think of if there are any other big ones. Carm.org is another pretty decent one. There's a lot of resources out there available. I mean, Google can be your best friend. It can also be your worst enemy, because you could end up just finding a whole bunch of garbage that isn't really Orthodox Christianity. So you kind of got to know what you're looking at first. But and then you have programs like Accordance or Logos if you decide to get deeper in studying and really use a more powerful program like that. So I hope this has been helpful. I feel like I've talked for 28 minutes now and really didn't cover a whole lot. There's just a lot that could be said. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comment box below. Put them in, shoot me a message on Facebook or something. Talk to me in church, whatever you want to do. If you have questions, I'd be happy to help. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.